Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and this is the first rental property I ever bought. I now own 40-some rentals, and I think they're worth over $18 million, which is crazy. I have some loans against them, so that's not all net worth there. But this was the first step on my rental property journey. And I hear a lot of people talk about what you need to buy rentals, like getting an LLC or corporate structure set up, all these different things if you want to put them in a trust. Now, I am not an attorney. I am not an accountant. So if you want specific legal advice, please seek someone out besides me. I'm not giving advice here, but I'm going to tell you what I did and how I bought this property, what I ended up selling it for, what I did with the proceeds, and the loans I got too, which are actually a big part of the structure I used. So I owned a personal house when I bought this. I lived in that house. I had an FHA loan on it. It was in my personal name because when you buy a personal house, it almost always has to be in your personal name to get an owner-occupied loan with low money down. I used the proceeds from a refinance on my personal house to put 25% down on this rental. So I used an investment loan. It wasn't an owner-occupied loan where I lived here for a year and moved out, which is a great strategy too. This is a purely investment property. And I used Bank of America to get my loan. Not the best bank in the world. Took a long time, a lot of paperwork. Finally got it done. But with Bank of America, they would not lend to an LLC. And you'll find a lot of the big banks will not lend to an LLC or corporation, even if it's an investment property. So that's something to consider when buying an investment property is you may not even be able to use an LLC, at least not right away. Now, especially if you're house hacking, you're moving into a property for a year, you're buying a fourplex, you've got to put that in your personal name. And a lot of people are out there saying you can't have stuff in your personal name. It can't be, you just have too much liability. Well, sometimes that's your only option. And there's other ways to protect yourself besides an LLC, like insurance, umbrella policies, making sure you don't do stupid things that are negligent and burn the house down. Things like that can really help you out in protecting yourself. And an LLC is not going to protect you in every situation either. It's not like a magic get out of jail card. If you do something negligent or bad, you can still get in trouble, still lose a lot of money, even money outside your LLC, no matter how well you have it set up. Things aren't always perfect. Judges aren't always perfect. There's a lot that can go wrong. So for me personally, I was fine putting this in my personal name. And I even talked to an attorney before doing this. And maybe it was after I bought this one and another rental, because the first couple were in my personal name, and said, hey, do I need to put stuff in LLCs? Now, I don't know how much I like this attorney, but he said, well, you're pretty young. And I was in my 30s. I wasn't that young. You probably don't have many assets, so there's really no reason to have an LLC. Now, he didn't really know me. He didn't know my financial situation at all, so I was a bit offended when he said that, even though it's true I didn't have that many assets, but still, he didn't know that. So I still thought, okay, so obviously it's not as big of a deal to him. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me. I was fine just buying the property in my personal name. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that. They want everything to be perfect. They want to have all their I's dotted, T's crossed before they'll invest or start a business or jump into something big. And I've jumped into a lot of big things, done a lot of different things without knowing half of what I should know. But I learned pretty quick, and experience is the best teacher. So you obviously want to have some education, learn as much as you can, but there's no way you can know everything. There's no way you'll be completely prepared before you do something big. At some point, you've got to jump in, you've got to do it, you've got to learn, you've got to live and gain that experience from being inside of the business or investment. And that's helped me learn a lot. We've had some deals where we lost money. I've done some things that didn't work out, but by and large, it's worked out more times than it hasn't. And being willing to jump into things is a big reason why I think that has occurred. So my main point here, I did not have to have an LLC. I did not have to get hung up on all the details. I did not have to be perfectly prepared for me to buy this property and end up having an amazing investment that led me to many, many more amazing investments. I think I ended up buying a total of 16 single-family rentals from 2010 to 2015. Then I switched to commercial properties, sold some of these, used a 1031 exchange to get more properties, and just kept building and snowballing from there. And I'm still buying properties now, as many of you know who follow me. I just bought a real gnarly 8-plex we're working on, and working on demo and getting rid of the roaches and doing all kinds of things there. Now, I'm not saying that should be your main goal. If that makes you not real comfortable, there's lots of ways to invest in real estate. You don't have to do what I do. So what we ended up doing with this house is I did end up putting it in an LLC a couple of years later. So I actually paid off this house in 3 years, took all of my rental income, everything I could, dumped it into this mortgage to pay it off. That was a big mistake because I could have used that money to buy more rentals instead and would have been way better off. But at the time, that's what I did. Like I said, you live, you learn, you make mistakes. I was spending a lot of money to pay off a 4% mortgage, and I could have been buying 2-3 other rentals at that time instead. However, can't go back and change time. But eventually I refinanced it. So I paid it off. Then I thought, man, I've got so much money sitting here. I could be buying more real estate, use this money for other stuff. And I had to realize, yes, it seems counterproductive to pay off a house and then go back and refinance it again. But I knew that was the best decision because I could make that money work so much harder. And it didn't matter that I made a mistake. Making another mistake to counter my first mistake does not make things better. It makes it worse. So at that point, when I refinanced it, I put it into an LLC. Ended up putting all of my rentals in LLCs. It's easy to do it in Colorado. It's very cheap. Some states it's more expensive, so it's something you have to consider. Some states like Texas have series LLCs where you can put them in a series. Some people group properties into LLCs and have 3 in one LLC or 5. There's all types of different ways to do it. Like I said, I would talk to an attorney or accountant for specific advice, but just realize there's no real perfect way. A lot of people talk about trusts, putting properties in trusts. I have never used a trust. My thoughts are it's always been really difficult for me to understand trust, to see the benefits, to see why. And if I can't understand it and see the benefits, it's not worth it for me to do. Not saying it's not right for other people. It doesn't work for them. For me personally, it just doesn't work for me, and it can be more difficult financing properties. So this, you might wonder, what am I showing this random property for? I bought this property in a 1031 exchange after selling that rental. So I bought that first rental for $97,000. Pretty good deal. But remember, people were telling me I was dumb and idiot for buying property in 2010. Many people in my industry were telling me that, but I saw the numbers. I saw the I didn't realize prices would go up as fast as they would. That wasn't my play. My play was cash flow, but I saw the numbers. I saw it would work, and I went ahead and did it. And I ended up selling that property for $275,000 in 2019. Now, that property is probably worth $380,000, $390,000 now. And people might say, well, you missed out on all that money. You should have just kept it. In a perfect world, I would keep every single piece of real estate I ever bought. But I can't do that. I don't have billions of dollars laying around. It is expensive buying real estate. Even refinancing using the BRRRR strategy like I do, it's still expensive buying real estate. I can't keep every single property I buy. That's why we do flips. That's why we've sold some single family rentals, some other rentals, because I can use the proceeds from this property to buy this property, which is a commercial property with 10,000 square feet. I paid $590,000 for in 2019. And so I was able to get a private money loan on this, have a pretty hefty down payment with the cash I had from my sale. And then I was using the money I had in that property to invest in a bigger, more expensive property. And this property we recently refinanced this year, and its value was right around $1 million, I believe, on the appraisal. So you might say, hey, you missed out on that first property because you could have sold it for $100,000 more 4 years later, 5 years later. That's true. But the property I bought gained $400,000 in value in that same time period. So I was, if I could have bought both without selling the first one, yes, great, amazing, do that. But I did not have the financial ability to just buy everything I want all the time. I still don't. Like I said, real estate's expensive. So that 1031 exchange allowed me to buy this property. And yes, I did have the LLC from that. That LLC bought this property. I have lots of information on 1031 exchanges and how those work. You basically, if you are able to complete a 1031 exchange and follow all the rules, you don't have to pay taxes on the amount that you sold the property for. Your profit when you sell that property, it kind of just rolls into the new property. And then with the refinance I did on this property, I was able to take quite a bit of cash out of it, more cash than I put into it from the sale of my first property, and that money is tax-free too because it's a loan, it's not income. So if you can use the strategy of 1031 exchanging and then refinancing, it's a really good way to take money out of properties without paying taxes. Now, if you ever sell, you've got to recapture all that and pay pretty hefty tax bills at that time when you don't do a 1031 exchange, but you could theoretically keep doing 1031 exchanges as long as they're still legal and available, which you never know what could happen in the future. So I could have not bought that property. I could have listened to the people who told me real estate's awful, it's just going to keep crashing, don't do it. I could have not bought that property because I didn't have an LLC set up, or the bank wouldn't loan to an LLC, and there's too much liability, so I should have just waited and waited and waited. I didn't do that either. There's always going to be reasons not to do things, and I'm not saying some of those reasons aren't valid, but just realize if you've done your research, if you feel comfortable with your investment, believe in yourself and your own analysis, sometimes your own gut, about what works and what shouldn't work. Don't blindly trust others. A lot of times others won't know as much as you, even in the same industry, even those with experience. Some do, not all of them do. And don't get scared. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to go for it. Even if you fail. I've failed before. You can fail. It's a possibility for sure. But believe me, it's much worse never trying and wondering if you would have succeeded than it is to have tried and things not gone how you thought they would. So this first property was a step in the right direction, helped me get started, helped me really create a pretty nice real estate portfolio that I'm still working on and still growing. And there's a lot of reasons why I couldn't have done it or shouldn't have done it according to a lot of other people. So, like I said, I didn't need an LLC. I didn't need things to be perfect. I didn't need it to be the perfect market, although it turned out to be pretty good. Nobody knew that at the time. And in the end, just getting out there, doing stuff, experiencing, inside the business and the investment was probably the best thing I could have done. Thanks for watching. Happy to answer any questions. And I've got videos of pretty much all my rentals, all my flips, all my other properties, including our current crazy ones, on my channel.